What if one kiss,
I love you.
preserved forever,
I love
wasn't
you
a
too.
memory, but a crime someone tried to erase? Before we dive in, if you love dark romance, twisted secrets, and stories that stay with you long after they end, hit subscribe now, because this story will take you somewhere unforgettable, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The museum was never meant to exist, at least not in the way people whispered about it now. Tucked between old stone streets and forgotten alleys where the city seemed to breathe in silence after midnight, a place called the Museum of Innocence, though no one who entered ever left believing in innocence again. And on a cold evening in early autumn of 2026, when the sky over the city was painted in shades of fading gold and deep violet, a young archivist named Daniel arrived with nothing but a letter, a key, and a past he had spent years trying to forget. The letter had no sender, only a single line written in careful ink. If you want to understand the kiss, you must first understand the lie. And though Daniel tried to dismiss it as a prank, something in the weight of those words pulled him forward, past the iron gates that creaked as if they hadn't been opened in years, into a courtyard where broken statues watched him like silent witnesses, and then through the main doors, where the air changed instantly, colder, heavier, carrying the faint scent of dust and something older. Something almost like memory itself, and inside, the museum was unlike any he had ever seen, not organized by time or theme but by emotion, each room labeled not with titles but with feelings, regret, longing, betrayal, and at the center of it all, behind a glass case illuminated by a single pale light, was the exhibit everyone came to see, the one people crossed continents for, the one that had made the museum infamous, the kiss, a frozen moment captured in perfect detail. A man and a woman locked in an embrace so real it felt like they might breathe at any second, their lips inches apart, their eyes closed, their expressions caught somewhere between love and fear, and Daniel felt something twist inside him the moment he saw it, because he knew that face, even before he could fully accept it, even before his mind caught up to what his heart already understood. The woman in the glass case looked exactly like Alara, the girl he had loved years ago, the girl who had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions and a silence that had haunted him ever since. And as he stepped closer, ignoring the faint warning in his chest, he noticed the smallest detail, something no one else seemed to mention in the articles or reviews. The tear frozen at the corner of her eye, a single drop that told a completely different story than the one the museum wanted people to believe. Because this wasn't a moment of romance, not entirely, there was something else here, something darker, something hidden beneath the surface, and before he could stop himself, Daniel reached out, his fingers brushing against the glass, and in that instant, the lights flickered, the air shifted, and a voice, soft and distant, whispered his name as if carried through time itself, and he pulled back, his heart racing, turning to see an old man standing at the edge of the room, watching him with an expression that was impossible to read. "You shouldn't touch what you don't understand," the man said calmly, his voice echoing slightly in the vast space, and Daniel, still shaken, asked the only question that mattered, "Who is she?" But the man didn't answer immediately, instead stepping closer, his gaze lingering on the frozen figures before finally speaking. "That depends, do you want the truth, or the story we tell everyone else?" And something in the way he said it made Daniel realize that whatever lay behind this museum, whatever secrets it held, they were far more complicated than he had imagined. And far more dangerous, because the truth, as he would soon discover, wasn't just hidden in the past. It was still alive, still watching, and still waiting for him to uncover it, even if it meant destroying everything he thought he knew about love, memory, and the night Alara disappeared, because the kiss preserved in that glass case was never meant to be seen. And the deeper Daniel went into the museum, the clearer it became that some memories aren't meant to be kept. They're meant to be buried. Daniel didn't realize he had stopped breathing until the old man turned away from him as if the question no longer mattered, as if the answer had already been decided long before Daniel ever stepped inside the museum, and for a moment the silence between them stretched thin, fragile, like glass ready to crack, until the man finally gestured toward a narrow corridor half hidden behind a velvet curtain that looked untouched by time. "If you're still asking who she is," he said quietly, "then you're not ready to hear why she's here." And with that he began walking, not bothering to check if Daniel would follow. But something deeper than curiosity pulled Daniel forward, a quiet dread mixed with a desperate need for answers, and he stepped into the corridor where the air felt even colder. the walls lined with framed photographs that seemed ordinary at first glance. People laughing, couples embracing, moments of everyday life. But the longer he looked, the more unsettling they became, because every image carried the same subtle distortion, a shadow that didn't belong, a reflection that didn't match, a detail just slightly wrong, as if reality itself had been edited after the fact. And Daniel's eyes caught on one photograph in particular, a blurred image of a cafe, where in the corner, barely visible, sat a woman with her head turned just enough for him to recognize the curve of her face. Alara again, but younger, unaware, as if she were being watched, documented, collected, and before he could process it fully, the old man's voice cut through his thoughts. "Every memory in this place is curated," he said, stopping in front of a heavy wooden door, "but not all of them are voluntary," and Daniel felt a chill run through him as the man unlocked the door with a small brass key, revealing a dimly lit room filled with monitors stacked in uneven rows, their screens flickering with grainy footage, each one showing fragments of lives, people walking down streets, sitting alone in rooms, arguing, crying, kissing, and Daniel stepped closer, his pulse quickening as he realized what he was seeing. These weren't recreations, they were recordings, real moments captured without consent, preserved like specimens. And then one of the screens shifted, the static clearing just enough to reveal a familiar scene, a night street illuminated by soft amber lights, rain falling in slow, quiet streaks, and there, standing beneath a flickering street lamp, was Alara, her face tense, her eyes searching the darkness as if she knew someone was watching. And Daniel's breath caught as another figure stepped into frame, a man whose face remained partially obscured, but whose presence felt unmistakably significant, and the two moved closer, their conversation inaudible, their expressions filled with something complicated, something urgent. And then it happened. The moment, the kiss. But it wasn't what the museum displayed, not even close, because this version was raw, imperfect, filled with hesitation and fear, Alara's hands trembling slightly as they rested against the man's chest, her eyes opening just before their lips met as if she wanted to stop, as if she was trying to say something. And then the footage glitched violently, the image distorting before cutting to black, leaving only a faint echo of static humming through the room. And Daniel staggered back, his mind racing. "That's not the same," he said, more to himself than to the old man. "It's different. She didn't look like that in the exhibit." And the old man nodded slowly, as if he had been waiting for that realization. "Of course it's different," he replied, his tone almost sympathetic. "What you saw out there is the version people can accept, the version that sells tickets, the version that keeps the truth contained." And Daniel turned to him, anger beginning to rise beneath his confusion. "Contained from what?" he demanded, and for the first time, the old man hesitated, his gaze shifting briefly to the darkened monitors before returning to Daniel. "From consequences," he said quietly, and before Daniel could ask what that meant, another screen flickered to life behind him, this time showing a close-up of Alara's face, her expression no longer uncertain but terrified, her voice finally audible through the speakers, distorted but unmistakable. "If you're seeing this," she whispered urgently, her eyes darting as if someone stood just out of frame, "then it's already too late. They're not preserving memories, they're rewriting them." And Daniel felt the ground beneath him shift as the weight of her words settled in, every instinct telling him to run, to leave this place and never look back. But he couldn't, not now, not when the truth was so close, not when Alara's voice, her real voice, was reaching out to him from somewhere between past and present. And as he stepped closer to the screen, ignoring the old man's sudden warning to stop, the footage changed again, revealing something that made his blood run cold, because the man in the video, the one whose face had been hidden before, turned just enough for the light to catch his features, and in that single, devastating moment, Daniel saw himself staring back from the screen, not as he was now, but as he had been years ago, standing in the rain, kissing Alara like it was the last thing he would ever do. And the realization hit him all at once, sharp and unbearable, because the memory he had been chasing, the mystery he thought he was unraveling, wasn't someone else's story, it was his, stolen, altered, and locked away in a place that had turned his past into an exhibit. And somewhere deep within the museum, beyond the walls and the carefully curated lies, something shifted, as if the truth itself had just woken up, and it was no longer content to stay hidden.